It's very interesting how no day is alike.
Right.
Every day is super unique and different. But this is why we enjoy it, right? Because we, I guess, love the blood rush of the business. And I personally think that the way the market is changing and the way the market is performing, especially right now as we speak, right? So there was a lot of banks that are closed down. There was a lot of unforeseen changes with the marketplace. We never expected for the rates to be where they are right now and today. But there is a lot of good facts that people are researching and looking into to what's expected, what's coming, what's going to happen with the marketplace. Let's really touch upon the buyers at the moment. What do you feel the buyers should do? What do you think the buyers are going through mentally? And how do you project the market in general in the next year or two?
So first of all, it's great questions. A well-prepared agent is going to prepare their buyer for whatever it may be, rejection, whatever. The market is strong. There's nothing wrong with the marketplace. As we mentioned before, the issues arrive because of inventory issues, low inventory. Now, again, I have to put a disclaimer on it because not every area is experiencing that. Most areas are. And most areas are experiencing issues where you have multiple offers, multiple situations with buyers. Buyers have become frustrated. And I think a well-prepared agent can alleviate that and retain their buyers by being well-prepared. Now, we're not going to give away all of our secrets on this podcast. If you want to learn some of those secrets, then you could come to Douglas Elliman and we'll be more than happy to coach you and teach you about those secrets. And I call them secrets because they really are. Most of the time, a buyer will not be retained by an agent because of these situations. And it's unfortunate because the agent could be wearing their shoes out, showing them 25 properties over the last year, and only to find out they go to an open house and buy through
Another
broker. Now, kudos to that other broker that made the deal and the meeting of the minds. But for the agent that soles on their shoes are worn because they've run them around everywhere, you want to minimize that. And, buyers right now, we've had situations where buyers have said, hey, we're going to take a break because we don't like what's happening in the marketplace. But the market is good. It's really good. And I think that gets kind of left out in a lot of conversations. People ask me just about every day, Tone, how's the market? The market's fantastic. It really is. You have to go out and find the business. That's the difference. And that's where the frustration level sets in for a lot of agents, buyers, and sellers. But I think that if you can go out and be well prepared, and again, this all circles back to everything that we've spoken about previously, about the support structure, about the brand, about the team, whether it's public relations, marketing, IT, new technology, whatever it may be. Being well prepared is the secret to being successful in this marketplace. And that's when you retain the buyers. Now, people are going to ask, how do I get well prepared? And I'm going to say it again. You want to learn the secrets, know where to go. So, and we're advocating those secrets. And we're teaching and training those different ways on how to complete those transactions from start to finish with the least amount of resistance and issues. So look, there's always going to be issues in every business. So I think the advice here is being well prepared is number one. I think if you're prepared, it's a little easier.
Mm-hmm.
There's more cooperation. There's more communication.
You're not panicking yourself.
Absolutely. Because look, let's face it, rejection sometimes, rejection used to make me stronger when I was an agent. I had to succeed. There was no margin for error. There is no margin for error right now. If you are going into a property with a buyer and an open house and it's extremely busy, What's your strategy going to be? Okay. So, if you don't get the deal, what happens? You go below the line. Well, you have to bring yourself above the line. So I think those challenges are extreme right now. And I think there are ways to deal with those challenges and put yourself in the right position for your customer or your client so that you can make the transaction. But all in all, the market is fantastic right now.
It's a normal market.
It's fantastic.
It's a normal market where I have to honestly tell you, I'm witnessing more cash buyers out there.
Absolutely.
People are leveraging their own cash. People want to use their own money right now, if they have, and they don't want to dive into financing. They want to wait off, because once you invest your money, you buy the right property, you get a good deal, you live there for about a year or two. Once the market gets correction completed, right? Once it's done, then you could always cash out if you need the money. You could always get a home equity. You could always get a line of credit.
Absolutely.
You can always do so many things, but sitting on the fence and not taking any action, Tony, it really sometimes makes me very upset where I get clients that have maybe 4 or 5 children in 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah.
I get those a lot. And they save the money. They're ready to buy something else, but mentally and emotionally, they're not able to pull the trigger because they are afraid. And what I will say is that turn off your TV,
right,
and start watching the podcasts that are producing good, positive mental state, because those podcasts will put you in a position where you will put the trigger right now and you will thank yourself in 5 years from now. Because talking about September 11, I mean, Tony, if you remember, during that time, there were a lot of contracts that people just got scared and pulled away and canceled the deals, and the whole world thought it's going to come to an end.
Yeah.
But what happened? If you remember, I remember those days very well. During September 11, within a year, the market didn't go like this. The market went like this. And so in the end of the day, we just know that when it comes to market, you can never time the market. But you have to enjoy your life. Your life needs to be lived. You can't constantly look at your bank accounts and say, oh, the rate's today 7%. Well, I'm going to put myself off the market and watch. Well, guess what? You're going to put yourself off the market and watch. Yes, you probably will wait off the situation where you're not pulling the trigger. But then down the road, in about 6 months from now, what's going to happen? The rates will start coming down. There will be more activity with buyers, and you're putting yourself where? In a position of big competition. So that's what is happening at the moment, where we're seeing a lot of uncertainty in the marketplace. But the Feds are intentionally putting the market in a position when it needs to correct itself. So do not be part of that bubble. Do not be the part of this situation where you do not take the advantage of the opportunity, right? And you're missing out, because you are conditioned by the outside events, general events that dictating your personal lifestyle. And that's what I always tell my buyers. Listen, if you have the money, if you have the down payment, if you're emotionally ready, if you are willing, you are on the same page with your spouse, your parents, whomever you're trying to do that investment with, do not wait. Pull the trigger. Take advantage of what's out there on the market. Start going around, talking to the right professionals. Speak to somebody who's going to properly guide you, properly look at your best interest in mind. Tony, I'll be honest with you. When I work with buyers, I always think about the future, because majority of my buyers in 5 years to 7 years come back as sellers. Right. And if I didn't do the right thing by them, if I didn't list the right property to sell to them, that is not a good move down the road, then I will not be able to sell it again. And I have to look at those buyers in the eye and say, hey, look, I didn't sell you the right property. It just never happens with Olga, because that's not how I conditioned my mind from day one. I always thought about getting good properties, selling them to the right buyers that are ready, willing, and able financially to manage them. And then 5 to 7 to 10 years, when they're ready to come back and resell it, we're going to take advantage of their situation and resell it and put them in direction where they could now do something else. So that's how we're working our buyers. And I personally feel and believe that do not time your life on the market events that are happening right now. Life is going on. Your children are growing. You're getting married. You're going through some major life events. Enjoy life.
Exactly.
Move on to something that you deserve to live in. Allow us, the professionals, to guide you, to coach you, to be there, the guiding force, and to give you the opportunity to live in a brighter future. So I personally believe that's my take with buyers. And I know that there is a lot of cash buyers out there. I know that there is a lot of buyers that are sitting on the fence. So, Tony, what would be your best piece of advice to those that are waiting for the market to go through correction?
So let's elaborate on this a little bit. First of all, you should always buy real estate and wait. Never wait to buy real estate.
Correct.
Okay. Let's talk about this cash deals because I have some live examples that I'd like to share, which are pretty amazing. Most of our clients that we've sold to, let's say over the last 5 to 10 years, who are maybe in the $2 million to $3.5 million range, or even 1.8 to 3 million range, let's say, are now seeing a very good opportunity because they're starting, and they follow the markets. They're starting to see the luxury market change a little bit, but there are some very good deals in the luxury market. Now, these are cash buyers. Maybe they didn't intend on, or they weren't actively looking to upgrade. So they're basically on the sidelines. But if the right property comes on the market, they will consider it. Let's say it may be, school district's not an issue because the children are going to private school. Or maybe the house is in the same school district. Or maybe they're going to move districts. So what happens is that the buyer says, I'm not actively looking, but if the right property comes on the market, I'll jump in. We're starting to see some of our larger sales, this being the case, where the buyer wasn't really actively looking. They're just sitting on the bench on the sidelines. But if the right property comes through and catches their interest, now they expressed interest. So we've had a couple deals that were put into contract in the last 30 days with this exact scenario. Both former clients, both jumped back into the market. Interest rates were a non-issue. They're buying cash. Staying in the same area was a non-issue. So there's that whole other pool. And now this is very interesting with the luxury markets because this one particular property was on the market for about 2 months, getting a decent amount of showings, but no offers. Then all of a sudden, one weekend, this particular buyer who decides, after probably a lengthy conversation with the family and whoever their advisors, decides that they want to go and take a look at this property. And it differed in many ways from their property, and I can understand why they wanted to make the leap. But what I didn't know is that this house was previously on the market for $2 million more 5 years ago. And now that particular seller has decided to go to a different state and is looking to unload the property, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
So this buyer sees that as a bargain.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And the second one was similar in a lot of ways as well, although they were just looking for a bigger home. But they really loved their home. They built it new, maybe 8 or 9 years ago. And they absolutely loved everything about it, put a lot of money into it, and it has appreciated significantly over those years. But then decided that maybe they would make the leap and buy a house that was 2,000 square feet, 2,500 square feet more, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it really is. Because of the fact that this house had a walkout basement that wasn't really counted in the square footage, which adds about another 4,000 square feet. Children are getting into their teenage years. There's more entertaining. They're big entertaining people. And in the house that they were in, they had a beautiful basement, but it wasn't a walkout entertainer's dream. So all of these facts play into
big upgrades.
Exactly. So, and again, both of them were cash buyers. So, these stories are my daily life. This is what I deal with
Endless.
on a regular basis.
Endless.
Of course, there are some that are waiting in the wings right now that can't find the perfect house, and you're always going to have that. So I'm starting to see again those luxury markets turn in the right direction. They're nowhere near where they should be. But once those markets turn in the right direction, everything else will follow.
Yes.
And that's the direction I believe we're going to start going to. So, if everything stays the way it is right now, I know inflation numbers came out, I think it was yesterday, and it was marginally a slight increase. When I pulled up to the studio today, the stock market was up 200 and something points, although the volatility there. A lot of people are saying, I don't want to put my money in the market. I have enough investments in the market. In the future, I want to be in real estate. So
We're seeing
a lot of
more.
that. We're seeing a lot of that. And whether it's international purchases or whether the international purchases are purchasing here, we're seeing a lot of international money flow over now again, starting. So that's encouraging. It is a small percentage of the purchases, but it's happening again. It stopped for a while. I think, the war overseas in Ukraine slowed that down a little bit, but it's opening up again. So there are a lot of very positive things that are happening within the marketplace that people aren't aware of. I think another sale that I can think of just off the top of my head that just came into mind was somebody who's been in the market for a very long time and wanted that extreme luxury property. Their business is doing very well. It's excelled over the last 3 or 4 years tremendously. And they feel that now is the time to jump into that super luxury market before it starts taking off again.
Right.
So, Olga, you make a couple of very good points with, I don't think people realize how much cash there is out there to purchase until you're involved in the business.
Yes.
And we're starting to see that
a lot
loosen up, which is encouraging.
Well, I'm telling you, I was kind of embarrassed. I invited James Chen to do one of my open houses, right? And almost every single buyer, Tony, that walked in and out, I felt like they didn't need financing. I looked at the guy and I'm like, wow, James, 3 hours you spent with me here. You've met all these people and most of them are cash buyers.
Right.
And I don't think sellers understand that. Then in today's market, if you watch the news, yes, you will probably want to commit suicide. Okay? But the reality of a real estate today is that, yes, there's a lot of sellers that's putting their homes on the market. There's a lot of cash buyers out there. There's a lot of transactions that's going on. And eventually things will correct themselves. And then when I will talk to buyers that they will miss out again on that opportunity. Well, they're going to talk about, oh my God, I wish that I took an action. I didn't sleep on it like I did, but was proactive and took an opportunity.
Sure.
And really made myself the American dream homeowner.
Olga, I have a close friend that 6 months ago entered into contract to purchase a new construction, pre-construction. I'll bet in a certain area, very, very, very active area right now with real estate. Prices are just all over the place. Amazing. I'll bet you that builder wants to kick himself because that new construction has appreciated in 6 months about $200,000. Now, this is not happening with every new construction in every area. I want to make that very clear. But this particular builder builds a very good house. This particular location that this buyer chose was a location where they wanted to live. And what's amazing is that resales, the same square footage,
goes up,
are selling for $150,000 more than he paid. The house is just, it's probably about 75, 80% being completed right now.
Wow.
So I think when you look at that, and that's a unique circumstance. It's not happening with every new construction. What I do know is that some new development has taken off. South Florida, forget it. It's crazy what's going on. Even some new construction here. But Think about that. 6 months pre-construction. Let's say the price was $1.3 million. You have comps now touching $1.5 million. Resales, new houses that are within 5 years old. 2 of them, to be specific. So, when people ask how the market is, how do you describe that? I mean, it is in a lot of ways unique, but in that particular marketplace, the pricing, the computer's a gauge today. You really don't know where the property is going to sell at until you get it on the open market, because the market is surprising us in a lot of ways. So, when we go back to say, well, what advice would you give to sellers? Well, yes, we are professionals. We do have systems that can give us a ballpark and give us comps. Comps are already booked business. But what's happening today is where the market's going to bear for that particular property. So I think it's interesting, and that's always been a big part of the market for me, or a big part of why I'm in real estate, is the excitement. You spoke about $1 million listing earlier. I could remember traveling into the city. Again, Elliman was a much smaller company. When Fred started $1 million listing, we used to go on sets and behind the scenes and the after parties, and it's really interesting to see those guys selling billions of dollars in real estate.
Well, they grew right before our eyes, right?
John Gomes, yeah. I mean, listen, I watched it. I've seen it.
Yes.
You know them. Refer business to them. So
they're humans.
It is exciting. When you look at the Altman brothers in LA and the properties that they're selling, our sports and entertainment division, the stars, the athletes, these properties, these mega properties, these mega mansions, it's phenomenal. I'll always watch those programs just to get educated on these properties. Some of the properties that are going from South Florida right now are just unbelievable, whether it's the East Coast or the West Coast of Florida. So I think that's the excitement. And I think as people learn a lot about those marketplaces, and don't forget, some of these shows, they don't show you all of the behind the scenes,
of course,
negative situations that happen where your deal is here today and it's gone tomorrow and then it's back again next week. They don't show you the emotional roller coaster part.
There is no reality,
Sometimes
right?
they do. Sometimes they do. But I call it the emotional roller coaster because that's what it is. So, but it is exciting. And, when you say to me, you talk about James, and he's an excellent mortgage banker. I've referred him deals, or had agents refer him deals. When you tell me that at your open house, most of your offers were cash deals, I mean, it's exciting. It really is. And that's the excitement part of this business and I said it before, you just really don't know how much money there is out there until you get into the real estate business.
Well, right now the statistic is showing, right? I don't know exactly the numbers to be on the dot, but the statistic is showing that right now, it's one of those times that most homeowners either have their homes paid off, either they have tremendous amount of equity sitting in their homes, or they are in a position where they are really opening themselves up to expanding into a bigger square footage and a different lifestyle. So this is the moment where people ask me like, Olga, how do people have so much money to buy these monster homes? Well, it's because 10 years ago or 15 years ago, they weren't sleepyheads. They took action. They bought their property. They waited and they saw the natural flow of the market appreciate, right? When I was looking for a house, Tony, it was in 2001. I remember 2001, 2, and 3. This was the time when I started playing the real estate game. I remember the prices. And I'm glad that at that time, I took advantage and I really pulled the trigger and I got in the game of real estate and I never looked back. September 11 and all these events that we went through in 2008 where the market really crashed and I had my own company at that time and I had about 50 agents that we pretty much recruited and none of them were really being big top producers because the market was very, very different. But every market goes through its own tornado moment.
Absolutely.
And so what's happening right now has nothing to do with what we witnessed for the past 20 years. What we witnessed for the past 20 years was so different. Back then in 2008, it was crisis financially. People were putting small down payments. They were upside down. There were no money to be made on their equity. Right now, it's opposite. We're sitting on a lot of equity. people sitting on a lot of cash, and people are really taking advantage, those that are smart, to turn those luxury properties into their own. And in the next couple of years from now, they will probably again multiply because there will be again shortage of inventory. Because remember, God does not produce any more land. We have what we got. The only place we have to go is up, which is vertical.
Right.
But in certain places like Long Island, you cannot go vertical. So that's why it's limited, right? And so that's what I always talk about, that people need to understand where we are right now in the current market, to understand where we're going with this. And if you are in a position where you are ready, willing, and able to financially pull the trigger and move, please reach out, give us a call. We'll be very happy to directly direct you, coach you, and really guide you in the most brightest future that you could possibly think of, because the opportunities are out there. Thanks everybody for watching. Stay tuned.